Hey everybody, it's all the Chunky 64, and it's good to be back. The N64 is my favorite system of all time, right? And so many amazing games, so many countless memorable games. But the problem with the system, I think, is its controller. Everybody knows this controller, it's iconic, but it's not iconic for the right reasons, I think. If you look at the controller, it just looks weird. It doesn't look right. It has a three-pronged design, and no human hands are like fit to hold this controller. Really, I like all the buttons on the controller. I think the A and B button especially. I think the buttons, how they feel, how they press, they're good. But really, yeah, the two main issues with the N64 controller is its shape and the joystick. And if you look closely here, you notice it's not even the original joystick. I had uh, a new stick put in, like a GameCube style stick, where it's like a ball joint. So definitely, as far as control goes, how it feels when you move around is better. But the problem with it is it's not as precise. Like the N64 stick is as flawed as it was. It had precise movements. With this, if you want to like just crawl in a game or just like creep up, the stick does not let you do that. It does not have the full range of motion like the original stick. So even if it's more comfortable to actually like play using the stick, even if it was perfect, you still have the issue of how the controller is shaped. So I've always wanted an N64 controller that had a more modern layout and addressed the flaws of the original controller. And for years, you did not have such a thing because I don't think anyone really knew how to address it. But I think back in November was the month. Don't quote me on that. There was a Kickstarter that I think finally addressed the thing I was so longing to have corrected. And I'm gonna show you. One sec. Ta-da! This is the Retro Fighters Brawler 64 pad, I think is what it's called. And if you just look at this controller and its layout, it has all the buttons, and for the Z triggers, they are on the very back of these right here. And you have on both sides. You have a memory pack slot, and you can do Rumble too. I should note that you can't do transfer pack though, not right now in its current iteration. The buttons feel fantastic, decent D-pad, but the real star of this controller is this joystick. It is ball joint style like the GameCube. It has an octagonal gate like the GameCube. It is a fantastic stick. Just the way this controller is laid out, it's definitely got some modern cues to it, but it is a very well done controller. And I am going to show you some gameplay just to put my money where my mouth is. So let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm going to play a ROM hack of Super Mario 64. This particular ROM hack doesn't really change too much as far as I've seen from it, but the general game of Super Mario 64 is one that's commonly done a lot for controllers and showing gameplay for reviews, and it's for a good reason. The original game was designed, the N64 controller itself was designed with this game in mind, and you can definitely see why. But as far as inputs, this game is the best to do in my opinion, because there's such different ranges of motions and inputs to do, and as far as the control stick goes. Like, this game is very reliant on the control stick, so having a good control stick is everything in this game. And everything that I'm trying to do, I can do successfully, consistently, and that's very important. You see all the flips there down by the waterfall, jumps, everything that I want to do, I can do, which is great. There you go, and got the star. Alright, so next we're going to check out Super Smash Bros. 19XXTE. It is a ROM hack of Super Smash Bros. That is strictly for multiplayer. There's no single player content or anything. It just has a variety of options, and yeah, like I said, tailored to multiplayer. I went through the menu pretty quickly there, but if you noticed, they had Final Destination, Battlefield, and Metal Cavern as stage choices. It replaces some of the other stages. This was a game that I especially looked forward to trying out with this controller, because I would argue that Super Smash Bros. Benefits from a good controller just as much as Super Mario 64 does. One of the issues that I had with the controller that I showed you at the beginning of the review, my controller with the new stick, was that I could not make precise stick movements. Like walking versus running, I could not do it consistently. The stick did not let me do it, and that's a big issue in this game. With the Brawler 64 controller, I'm able to do walking and running when I want. That's a big deal. This controller, though, it feels like made specifically for Smash, just because of how it's laid out. It feels a lot like a GameCube controller. In the N64 Smash Bros, the up ceased button is the jump button. So basically, it feels like the Y button for like Melee. Basically, if you were playing Melee and then you went over to Super Smash Bros. N64 and then you were using this controller, it would be a very easy transition, I would say. In fighting games in general, and especially Smash Bros, like, inputs are everything. So I don't feel like the controller is like fighting me, and I don't feel like any disadvantage when I'm using it. The A and B buttons are not as deep presses as the original controller, so you could argue that you'd be able to do the inputs faster, maybe just like very like fractionally faster. But I don't think it's that dramatic of a difference as far as the press goes. I think it's just a matter of preference if you want to do a deeper press or a shorter press. Truth be told, though, there's only 3 options you really have for the N64 if you want a control stick in the left corner. This controller, a GameCube to N64 adapter made by Rafnet. I did a review on that a while back. Or a Hori mini pad. I'll discuss the Hori mini pad first. It's just way too small. It's not. I had one of those controllers for a while, and I decided to sell it just because the controller is just way too small in the hands. It's not very ergonomic. Even though I loved the giant stick, the controller was just too small in the hands. It wasn't very comfortable because of that. And also just the fact that it's $70–$80. It's not very affordable. And the GameCube N64 adapter is fantastic, but the problem is that you don't have a memory pack slot, so you can't save your games with it. And then you have the Brawler 64 pad. Honestly, for the price and everything considered, I think this is the very best option you have for the N64. It's very comfortable, it's very affordable, and I just can't recommend it enough. They'll be rolling out past Kickstarter, and it's going to be $30 for everybody else. I guess one issue I would like to address, or before I forget to mention it, is that right now with the current batch controllers, if you hold down the L shoulder button and move the joystick into the upper left corner, the stick underneath and the shoulder button, they will rub against each other, and it's annoying, but they know it's a problem, they're addressing it, and the next batch controllers won't have this issue. Overall, I really do recommend this controller. When you have the controller, you'll just want to go back and play all these games that you loved as a kid, or just you loved in general, and try them out with the controller. At least that's how I feel. This was Ultra Chunky 64. See you next time.